Okay, today we're going to review 68 COPO Camaro from the Cool Classics line. That line came out in 2013, and it's by far one of my favorite series that Hot Wheels did. It was short-lived. It only made it 2 years, but I think there were some really neat castings and paint schemes that came out from that series. So before I get into the actual Hot Wheels car itself, let me describe a little bit about the actual car. COPO, for those of you that don't know, was a program that Chevrolet, or I should say GM, offered, but most notably Chevrolet, offered in the 60s that allowed dealers to order performance parts such as engines and suspensions that were not offered on factory cars. And COPO stands for Central Office Production Order. So basically what they did is they had these programs that circumvented factory offerings. Dealers could order these parts and install them on cars and hence make versions that were a lot hotter than what you could buy from the factory. One dealer in particular made use of this more than any other. That was Don Yanko of Yanko Chevrolet, which was located in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. Don had had some experience modifying Corvairs in the 60s and actually took them to places like Sebring and had great success in road racing them. He started ordering Camaros in 67. And basically what he did is he'd order a base small block or 396. Most of them were 396 big block Camaros. And then he'd also order 427 cubic inch L88 motors from the factory through the COPO program. And what he would do is he'd pull the 396 or the small block out. He'd put the 427 in. And he also upgraded a lot of other aspects of the car. He put heavier springs in there, hardened axles, front disc brakes. Nearly all, I think all of them were fit with M21 4-speed transmissions. They had 410 posi rears. That's not to say that other gear ratios weren't offered. They did make rally cars, which I'm sure were not fit with 427s, or I'm sorry, 410s. But nonetheless, most of the ones that were produced were 410 gears. He put larger sway bars in there, and the L88 427 itself had. It depends on what you look at. Some of them said 430 horse, some said 450. Arguably, those were understated numbers. It was pretty common back in the day for factory horsepower figures to be on the conservative side. The 427s he did put in these cars had 850 CFM double pumper Holley carbs. And two people that were instrumental in getting this program going with Don Yanko were Dick Harrell and Bill Thomas. Dick Harrell is a famed drag racer from that era. And he worked with Don to get the suspension set up, to get the motors tuned, and I don't know how much of that he actually did at Yanko, but he was at least an advisor on the program. Yanko later had a falling out with Dick Harrell. By 68, their relationship had pretty much ended, but the cars that they produced, even into 68 after Dick was no longer part of the relationship with Yanko, they were exceptionally fast. These cars on a prep drag strip with slicks or good tires could run in the 11s. On the street, they were slower. They wouldn't hook quite as well with the tires that came through from the factory, but they were something else. And some reports even cite that the cars are capable of running in the 10-second range on the strip. So for that era, that was really moving. So basically, in 1967, Don Yanko made 54, cars using the COPO parts. 3 of those were rally sport cars for road racing. The rest were, just big muscle cars, for lack of a better word. They used the COPO system again in 68. And essentially what he would do is he would buy the car again with a 396. By 68, I think everything that he ordered was with a 396 in it. And he would order from the COPO catalog, a 427. He would then put the motor in the car and do all the other things that I talked about. So he sold 64 of those in 1968, so they're exceptionally rare. Now, in 1969, the COPO program became a factory option. So you could buy, a COPO 69 Camaro through a dealer, and the motor for those cars was actually installed at the factory. Now, a lot of times people, assume that Yanko was the only one doing this, and he wasn't. There were other dealers, such as Nicky out of Chicago, Baldwin Motion out of New York did cars like this. So Yanko is not the only one, but he is definitely, the one that gets a lot of the credit, or I should say is synonymous with this program. I do want to talk a little bit about the SC. You'll see logos on these cars. Yanko did badging, and he also did some decal packages. And you'll see the acronym SC. So in 67 and 68, the SC stood for Super Camaro. By 69, the SC stood for Super Car. Very minor change in that regard, but there is a difference in terms of the naming convention. So Hot Wheels in 2010 decided to make a 68 COPO Camaro casting. They were not released until 2011. They came out that year as the new model line, basically a main line. They also did some Musclemania cars that year. And by 2013, they included it in their what was to be known as the Cool Classics line, which again is one of my favorites. Cool Classics were unique in a couple of regards. They were a higher end. I wouldn't call them premium. They were in between like a premium and a main line, but they used metal bases. They used metal bodies. And they had paint which was called Spectra Frost. It's really hard to pin down exactly what Spectra Frost was. What I believe it to be was nothing more than Spectra Flame, which they had done in years prior, shot with a matte coat or a matte finish. And they were really quite beautiful, as you'll see here in this 68 Cool Classic, which I guess is like a pink magenta. They really did stand out. They had a satin sheen to them. They were not completely dull. Sadly, Spectra Frost did not survive the Cool Classic line. Cool Classics came out in 2013 with an initial 30-car offering. It carried over into 2014. They did another 30 cars. And beyond that, Spectra Frost was never cataloged again. Now, they've done matte finishes, which are very close to Spectra Frost, and it may actually be the same technology. I don't know. But the name Spectra Frost pretty much died after the Cool Classics line was discontinued in 2014. Another notable thing that came on these cars, the Cool Classic line that is the RSW wheels. RSW stands for Retro Slot Wheels. They were really beautiful. I loved them the minute I saw, the offering, and in terms of how it paired with the Spectra Frost, it really made these appealing. Now, the good news is even the Spectra Frost has not survived. The retro slot wheels have. They've made it into the main lines. Recently, the 55 Nomad from 2024 had it. The Corvette Stingrays, which have been done in a couple of different variations, have them. And the AC Cobra that came out in 2024 had it. There are a lot of other main lines that got RSW wheels, but those are just some of the ones that are top of mind for me. So again, Cool Classics were unique from the standpoint they had Spectra Frost paint. They had RSW wheels, which were again the retro slots, and they had some nice additions to the actual paint schemes. As you'll see here, they did accent painting on the hood pins, the door handles, even the door lock, which is somewhat rare. There are no, as you'll see, headlight or taillight details on this car, but there are like the L88 logos on the hood scoop. And these cars were, I can't remember exactly what they cost. I want to say like $299, somewhere in the $3 range back in 13 and 14. So they were not quite premium price, but they were, you know, 3 times what you'd pay for a mainline. And they just didn't take off. From what I understand, they didn't sell well. I know I would go to Walmart and places like Target, and you'd see tons of them on the rack, and they were really neat cars. I could understand if they did this with a, you know, with weird cartoon cars or fantasy cars, but they, you know, all 60 cars, with the exception of a couple, were pretty much classic muscle cars, drag cars, things like that, and they just didn't sell. Now, what I did hear indirectly is that they were expensive to produce. Maybe the Spectra Frost paint was hard to apply, or more expensive than the base paints that they were using. They just couldn't turn the profit that they wanted on these, so they didn't last long. But they did come out again in 2013. I remember when I first saw them. They came on blue cards. Now, I probably should have got a card out. It has a real 70s or late 60s looking piece of artwork on it. I actually have all 60 Cool Classics on the cards in mint condition, and then I've on models that I really like, similar to what you're seeing here. I'd also buy a second one and unbox it just to have one in my collection. So going back to the 68 COPO, again, it came out in 2011. It has a 2010 date stamp on the bottom. And beyond the classics, which were in 2013, they did do RLC cars in 2013 as well. And they did 4 colors. They did chrome, blue, red, and purple on the 68 COPO Camaro. In 2017, they did a Car Culture Redliners edition. And they also did a 50th anniversary model in 2018 in Zamac. And then beyond that, there were lots of other 68 COPOs within the main line, and they did a convention car version. I mean, there's just lots of 68 COPO Camaro editions that they've done since it was unveiled in 2011. So with respect to this car, as you can see, the paint's really nice. Again, they accented quite a bit of the car with door handle paint and hood pin paint. They put the L88 logos on the hood scoop. L88, by the way, is the GM model number for their big block of that era. With respect to the base codes, this car does not have the 5-digit base, or model code, I should say, embossed on the bottom. I don't know why. The actual model code is Y9451, but it's not on the base. They did date stamp this with a 3-digit code. For those of you that don't understand how that works, Hot Wheels has a 4-digit or 3-digit code on the bottom of the car, which is stamped. This one has F47, so F represents the year 2013, 47 represents the 47th week of that year, which would put it around November with respect to production. These cars came out of Thailand, and you know, again, were really nice. I mean, I've not had any Cool Classics that I've unboxed, or even ones that I've looked at on the card that had imperfections, you know, paint which didn't lay down right, tampos that were not properly done. They were all, you know, in terms of quality, very high end. I did weigh this car. I've got a scale in the basement, which is quite accurate. It's so accurate it's leveled, so I don't bring it up here and weigh these cars within these videos. But this car weighed 41 grams, which is pretty heavy, but not unexpected for a metal on metal model. So that's basically it. And what we'll do next is a roll test to see how this does. Now we'll do a roll test with a 68 COPO Camaro to see how it does. It is heavy at 41 grams. That doesn't mean it's going to do well on the track. If the wheel and axle combinations have any sort of shake or misalignment, the weight won't overcome that. So let's see how it does. We'll roll it 3 times. All right, about 3.5. Or I should say 3 right on the nose. Roll number 2. All right, again went to 3. And the last one. It's consistent. It goes to 3 every time. So I'd say that's a little bit better than average, not a lot. But all in all, a pretty good roller, pretty much on par with other cars that I've tested. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll do this again shortly. Thank you.